Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the FFL North Huddle Call. As usual, I am going to start off with some numbers, some personal production numbers. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. John, can you see that?
Yep.
Great. Perfect. Okay, so this is through week 2 for October, 20K plus producers. So at the top here, at 20,032.31 is David J. Adam Marquis is at 20,478.36. Andrew Leva is at 26,594.57. Marcus M, 31,364.29. And numero uno, the man himself, the legend, Brad Allen at 45,457.20. So awesome job, everybody. That is great. Hopefully we can see some more names up there next week on 30K plus producers. And without further ado, John Gavin, I'll turn it over to you. I'll stop sharing my screen.
That was so professional. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. A couple of things on there. Is one of the first things, obviously Brad is number one, and I just noticed the producer bonuses just came out, and I saw that Brad just got a producer bonus for last month. So on top of making a lot of money, he gets paid another $3,000 for the month. That's not for the year or anything like that. That's just for the month, for what he did last month. He gets an extra $300,000. That'd be nice, $3,000, and those bonuses go down to, I believe it's 40,000. And we've got a few people that are on pace for that. Andrew Leva issued 13,000 both week 1 and week 2, so he's on pace to do 50,000 issue paid, all live volume for the first time. And when our comp level started 100%, that, and you got 2750 too. Yeah, so when our comp level started over 100%, and you have people that are issuing $50,000 a month, Andrew, he didn't come from that. He didn't come from a lot of money. He didn't come from a high-paying executive job where that was the norm. And it's awesome to have an industry like this one where anyone can do this. And I've talked to Andrew a lot, and I know that he's just got a new energy about him. And if you talk to most people, the biggest difference a lot of times is just changing up in your leads. Like if you're stagnant where you're at, and you're not growing, you're not increasing your production as you move along, let's look at your lead flow and what you're using. I think the best leads out there right now are Nashville Financial. I think Brad introduced them to us. He found them from another agent in our group, and that's just changed everything. I was talking to Andrew last night, and he said he's setting 80% of the people he calls on the Nashville Financial leads. So great job, Andrew. And then Brad is he's over 700,000 for the year so far. And that's with 3 months left to go. So, and I know he didn't, like, Brad's focus this year was to get to $1 million agency. And so early on, he was not writing like Brad typically does. I think he was doing like 25, 30, 35,000 a month. So he was, a little bit behind to get started, and then he ramped it up a few months ago. And it must be nice to just be able to ramp it up and make 100,000 a month. And he had the move in there too that kind of set him back a little bit. But somebody who got set back by building at first, not selling full time, and then moving and having to find leads in an area that none existed, and to be over 700,000 in just this, through the second week of October is insane, and it just goes, it's a lot to say about his talent level, but also just his work ethic. He makes his turkey sandwiches every morning. He goes out and hits the field, and he's the most consistent agent we have, and he gets the most consistent results. So a few things before, I'm going to have Mikayla Soto on here in a second. Cover a few things. The whole hybrid method of selling is working out really, really well for people. A lot of people are killing it selling over the phone. And I personally think that face-to-face is the best way to sell life insurance, because you're able to build that instant rapport. But there's a lot of examples of people who were selling at a pretty high clip and then went virtual in the hybrid method, and they doubled or tripled their production. And I think his name's Ken Wasserman out of Texas. He was doing about 50,000 a month in issue paid business. And he decided to go virtual and give the option of meeting face to face or doing over the phone. And he did 50,000 in 10 days, all life volume. And it's really good persistency too. So it's staying on the books. And so a lot of people are going into the lead companies that do live transfers. And the problem with live transfers work really, really well, actually. But the problem with live transfers when they become more popular is that you're almost bidding for the lead. And so the leads start off at $40 a piece. But what they do is you get into a bidding war, and that $40 lead can go up to $140 pretty quickly. And so now you're paying $140 per lead. What you can also do, rather than sit around and wait for a live transfer to come in, you can increase your activity. You can get some of the lower cost leads and just dial all day and create your own live transfer. Because live transfers are actually created by dial teams that they buy inexpensive leads. They're continuously dialing out. When they get somebody that's interested on the phone, they transfer them to the agent. Well, if you're the agent and you're just dialing, you don't have to transfer them to somebody else. You can just go through your in-home and make a sale right there. And so rather than doing a lot of the live transfers, because they may not be available in some of the more populated areas, you can create your own live transfers just by getting some of the lower cost leads and spending more time on the phone. I want to go into the producer bonuses a little bit more. So like I said, they start off at $40,500. What I think is really funny is that to get like a $500 producer bonus, somebody will do everything they can to write 40,000, but they won't do everything they can to make 40,000. Because that 40,000 is still going to be there. You get the 40,000 part of it, and we're starting at 100% comp. So if you were going to sell insurance and sell enough to issue pay 40,000, you're making 40,000. But the producer bonuses are incentivizing people to write more, so they get to that point to where they're writing 40,000 to get that $500 bonus. Don't get me wrong. I think those bonuses are awesome. They're non-charge backable. And you look at someone like Brad, who's going to get another $36,000 in just producer bonuses on top of the vice president bonuses. It's income on bonuses on bonuses. So it turns out to be a lot of money. But what about the incentive of making $40,000 a month and just doing what it takes to get to that point rather than just trying to get a bonus? And so Mikayla Soto's on the call today. And the reason why I want to have her on was, I watch everything that's being written. I watch, who's consistent and who's not. And she's done a great job. I see her name a lot. Haven't had too many conversations with her, but she's somebody that I see that's been with us a fairly short period of time that writes pretty consistent business. And so, Mikayla, thank you so much for getting on today. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
And you're in New Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Born and raised. What, Albuquerque?
Yeah.
And so what was your previous, give us a little bit of background on yourself, family life, work background, school, where'd you come from?
No previous experience in insurance, really just only worked 9-to-5 jobs. I have a 2-year-old son. I'm a single mother. I'm originally from Santa Fe, New Mexico, born and raised. I've just really worked basic jobs. I've never been a good employee. I had a hard time keeping jobs.
Yeah.
So I've always really wanted to be self-employed, but never found the opportunity. And then this came into my life. So I think this family first life was served to me on a silver platter per se, but I still have to work for it, of course. So I have no previous experience in anything like this.
So no sales experience. No, what kind of work did you do? Like, what were some of the industries you were in?
I worked in the fast food industry when I was younger. Prior to doing this, I was a gallery director at an art gallery in Santa Fe. Santa Fe is pretty big on art. So I did that for a while, and then COVID hit and it got a little weird. So I wasn't really doing that as much as I was. Tried doing online things, all this e-commerce stuff, you know, all this stuff you see online, and it just wasn't panning out. And then I came across Family First Life.
Now, how did you find us, or how did we find you?
I was actually on Instagram one night, probably at 2 a.m. Should have been going to bed so I could go to work the next morning, but I found Jessica Power's post and commented, watched the Rogue IMO video, and my upline called me the next day, and I did my licensing within about 7 days, a week or so.
So I love hearing stories of people getting hired by social media, because a lot of people say that they don't have the money to advertise to hire, but we have so many cases of people like Nina and Hayden Hill. They're at about 1.6 million a month right now, and it's all from social media. They don't
1.6 million.
Oh, that was weird. Yeah, so they're at 1.6 million, and they've done it all through social media. All they do is post every single day. And here's another example of somebody coming across that, a social media post that Jessica did. Now Jessica's posts that she does, what was it that attracted you to that? What do you remember what the post was? Was it TikTok or Instagram?
It was Instagram. Honestly, I don't even know how I clicked on it, because it was just a picture of a sales conference, I think like last year's annual convention.
Yeah.
And somehow I just went down this big rabbit hole of FFL, and I watched that Rogue IMO video on my own, and then went deep dive into YouTube trainings and all this money that people were making. And then I didn't really think much about it until I got a phone call the next day from Clint.
That's awesome. So Clint calls you up, and Clint's, you know, he's one of the top producers in our group, and he told you what we do is life insurance, and you weren't licensed, so you went and got your license.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to get that?
About 8 or 9 days.
Okay.
I did it very quickly. I really put my head in the books. It's a hard test, especially when you don't know much about insurance.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too sure if I was going to pass it the first time, because I heard a lot of people don't. So I was glad I did.
Was there any part of you that while you were studying was thinking, this isn't for me? Because what we do in the test is different from what we do in real life. It's the terminology is completely different. It sounds like a nightmare because there's gigantic words and there's a lot of stuff to take in. Was there any point in those 8 days you thought this may not be what I wanted, or might have been overwhelmed by the information?
It was a bit overwhelming, to be honest. No, I felt pretty motivated by it. I was watching the YouTube trainings like all throughout me doing my licensing, so it kept me motivated because I heard all the numbers people were putting up.
Such a good idea.
So it kept me going. If I didn't watch that, I probably would have felt a little bit discouraged, because it is a lot of information.
And the reason why I asked that question is because when I'm bringing people on, I specifically tell them the information you'll be studying is a lot to take in. There's a lot of information. It seems really technical. It's overwhelming. It's boring and monotonous, but it's not what we do in real life. And so if you can just put your head down and get through that 7, 8, 10 days it takes to get the course done, you know, I'll show you what we do in real life. And it's a heck of a lot easier than studying. So I always kind of prep people for that, because we lose a lot of people in class. They start taking the class and they start, you know, studying. They're like, I can't do all this. I can't remember. There's no way I can remember all this. And what I let people know is you're studying just to pass a test. That's it. Pass a test. Boom. Don't have to remember any of that. Yes, some of the legal stuff you should remember, but then what we do on the other side in real life is a lot better. So you got your license. Coming in for the first time. Tell me how, because I haven't mentioned this, but Mikayla, you've been with us 7 months now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so 7 months, you've issued, do you know how much you've issued?
I think Brian went over it like 115.
119,000.
Something like that.
So 119,830 to be exact. And that is, you know, that's over 7 months. And that's including just getting started. So you've obviously had, like, what was your biggest month? We talked about this last night, but what's the biggest month you've had so far?
My biggest month was last month. That came out to about 29K, I believe.
Okay, so just under 30,000.
Yeah.
So no sales experience. In your own words, a terrible employee.
Yes.
No insurance background, get your license, and in 7 months, you're averaging just under 20,000 a month averaging. What was it like when you were first getting started? Did you focus more on phone scripts, leads, in-home? What was the steps that you took to get moving into your first home?
Um, my biggest focus in the beginning was the phones.
Yeah.
Before I even got my license, I was practicing my phone script. Like every morning I would, watch all these videos and just practice it, print out the scripts. So I practiced that all the time in the beginning. And then whenever it came to the in-home, I watched a lot of videos on the in-home, of course, but I wasn't too focused on it in the beginning. Once I actually did the day before my first, field day going out into the field, I watched Paul McLean's 8 steps probably like 50 times. So, and it went well. I sold my first appointment and I helped that guy. He still has the policy to this day. So I wasn't too focused on the in-home in the beginning, just the phones. I didn't care. I mean, of course I cared much about product knowledge, but I wasn't a product knowledge freak. Like some people feel very obligated to know all the products, but I knew that client had my back, so I wasn't too concerned on it. I just had basic knowledge.
So I'm having a really hard time believing that you were a bad employee, because everything you're doing here was the right thing, whether you're intentionally doing it or not. Like you're studying to get your license, but watching videos for encouragement. You get your license and you focus on the phone scripts. Know you need to know some products, but don't overwhelm yourself with product knowledge. So everything that you did in the beginning here has really set you up for some real success, whether you intended it that way or not. So I have a hard time believing that you're a bad employee, because you're going above and beyond what a lot of people do here. And maybe it's because you're working for yourself now.
I think it's just because there's a bigger picture at the end.
Absolutely.
You're not going to get the same result as if you're an employee making somebody else's dreams come true, whatever you do.
Absolutely.
So I think there's a bigger result at the end, some more motivation about it.
Yeah, when your income is dictated by your activity level tends to go higher, because you can drive a higher income out of that. So now you were, if I remember correctly, I hadn't seen your name before, but you got on live dials pretty quickly, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I think my first dial day I did live dials.
Okay.
That's a big stepping stone that helped me a lot.
So no sales experience whatsoever, no insurance background, and she volunteered for live dials her first dial day. We send forms out. We ask for people to volunteer for live dials now, and people with a lot of experience don't do it. So here's somebody who knew the value of getting trained up. You know who else volunteered for live dials? The very first dial session was Brad Allen. So that's that mentality there of people jumping in. Or it wasn't his first dial sessions when we first started having live dials. He was the first person that volunteered. And so it's that mentality of jumping in and doing things, especially something as important as dialing, because you can be so good in the home, but if you stink on the phone, you're not getting into many homes. And so when you started off, what leads were you using down there in New Mexico?
Just instant internet leads, 1 month, 3 months. Did social insurance for a while. I don't use social insurance anymore.
Yeah.
But instant internet leads, the same as everybody else. I didn't really dive into mortgage protection in the beginning. I think that's a big step if you're just starting. So now I do mortgage protection and I'm really comfortable with it. But instant CRM, that's the way to go.
And going to your first house, how did you, when you first you had your first sale, and you said Clint always had your back. Tell me about that relationship and how he helped you out in the beginning.
Well, I would call him in the beginning before every appointment, of course. I think mainly because I was just nervous. And then call him after I go over the financial inventory. And he would tell me what to write. And I'd tell him, if the client was on certain medications. And he would tell me which route to take. And that was it, really. So I never, in the beginning, I never not called him.
Really?
While I was in home.
And that's so important. Excuse me. And that's what we tell everybody to do, but not too many people do it, because a lot of people think they're bothering their manager or whoever it was that brought them into this business by making those phone calls. but that's what we're here for. Hold on just one second. Need water. And so, sorry about that. Yeah, so that's what we're here for, is to help people out. And when people are just getting going, the most important thing is getting good on the phone, getting phone scripts down, and then going into with some basic product knowledge, but then calling your upline as well too. And a lot of people are fearful for two reasons. They don't want to bother somebody, and they also don't want to seem like they don't know what they're doing in front of the client. Now, when you were sitting with the client, you went through the full financial inventory. How did you take that break to call Clint and get a little bit of advice there?
Shoot, I haven't called him in a while in a home, so I think I would go about it. I'm pretty sure where our best fit's gonna be, but I'm gonna call my senior underwriter and just make sure that I have everything right, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeming, and they're fine with it. Everybody's fine with it. Nobody really cares. And then whenever Clint would tell me where to go, I'd say, perfect. I was thinking the same thing.
Exactly. And it's just sort of a verification. I think new agents think that it's almost like a sign of weakness that they have to ask for help, but it's more of a validation. So it's like, hey, I think I know where I want to go with this. I want to double check with my senior underwriter. Let me give him a call real quick. You call him up. You may not have any idea where to go. He tells you where to go. Perfect. That's what I was thinking as well too. And you go in and write it up. And so now they know that, you're out there and you've got the back of somebody else who, they don't even know who it is. They might think it's in an office somewhere at corporate, where you're calling the senior underwriter and getting that input from them. And it just kind of validates what you're presenting to them. And so I think with new agents, that's so important to do, and so valuable because of the fact that it does provide that validation, and it gives you a sense that you can go into a house, be a phone call away from knowing exactly what to write. You don't need to know all the products. A couple of them is fine. And you just have to have a good manager that can help you out with that as well too. Exactly. So what were some of the, so I know that in this business, not everything is perfect. We always have some ups and downs. What are some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome? And looking back 7 months in the business, averaging about $20,000 a month, what are some of the things that you know now that you didn't know early on?
I think the biggest thing I came across was I was running so much and so determined to, keep going hard at it, that whenever I would write policies, I wouldn't necessarily forget about my clients, but I was not following up with them like I should. I think that was my biggest mistake that I've made. And I've corrected, of course, but that was a big mistake. And then chargebacks started coming. I was just not preventing and not being as professional as I could. And it was very transactional.
And so what do you do differently now?
As soon as I leave my client's house, and if they get a policy, I will either call them later that day, or if not, within 24 hours, and then I'll call them. I set reminders on my phone now, or else I'll forget. And then I'll call them a week later, and then I'll call them the next week to make sure they got their policy and to see if they want me to go over and review it with them.
And so what kind of change, what kind of change have you seen? Go ahead.
I haven't started sending out like thank you or congratulations, you got approved. I should be doing that, but I'm still taking steps. I have prevented chargebacks a lot more than, there's always going to be stuff that falls off the books no matter what. But and I'm just creating more of that relationship with my clients like I initially wanted, and that they feel like they trust me, and I'm not just some person they could have bought a policy over the phone with,
How many times do we go into a house and the people have a policy in place, and it might even be a short period of time, a couple months, a year, and they have no idea who they bought it from. And so there's that lack of relationship there, and you lose the right for referrals as well too. But if you take a few extra steps and like you said, call them when they're approved, congratulate them, send out thank you cards to them to let them know you're still thinking about them, let them know that you're their agent for life. The good thing about life insurance is there's not a whole lot of service involved. I started off in the P&C business where every little old lady would call every month when their car insurance went up by $1.49. Well, we don't have to deal with a lot of that, but it is still a service business. And so to kind of take a few extra steps, or a phone call here or there, and send out thank you cards with some of your business cards, and that creates that relationship and that agent for life. So when you addressing chargebacks, when you get chargebacks and you get a notification, do you call the clients afterwards and see if you can save it?
Majority of the time I try to. Usually my clients will call me and tell me they
Okay.
want to cancel, and then I kind of try to pivot from that. There's some that I just can't save no matter
Yeah.
what. They're just, determined to not have it. So, but now when I'm at an appointment, before I leave, I have my clients write down 3 reasons why this is important to them. And I have them do it themselves. And some people kind of think it's silly. And I'm like, well, I need you to do this. And so if they do call me back now and want to cancel, I kind of have them go back to that list. Some of them just don't care and don't want it,
Yeah.
but I try to prevent it, yes.
That's awesome.
Or I'll try to show up. If they don't answer my calls, I'll show up at their house. But some of them, it's bound to happen.
That's a great idea. I haven't heard that one yet. That's a great idea. And so we've talked, and so your persistency is getting a little bit better. As far as building the agency, do you have any agents in your group now?
I don't. I've been a little inconsistent about it.
Okay.
This business can be a little rough, and then when things get rough, you kind of let your foot off the pedal.
Absolutely.
So I'm trying to be better about that. I have some
Okay.
people in licensing right now.
Are you on social media at all?
Yes, I am.
You are? Okay. So if you were hired by social media, you can hire by social media. And so if you just put yourself out there, because, there's probably a lot of people. I've hired a lot of people in New Mexico, and a lot of them didn't do very well. And so the fact that you're out there and so new and they had insurance backgrounds too. The fact that you're doing so well consistently says a lot for you. And I know that, I'm not sure how big you are on social media, but there's probably a lot of people just like yourself that are not good employees or not getting paid what they're worth or not happy with their job. And if we just put what we're doing out there a little bit more, we can start attracting that. And when I first started hiring, I didn't actually do it to build an agency. I did it because a couple of my friends were out of jobs, in between jobs, looking for something different. I said, here, look at this, what I'm doing. I'm doing pretty good at this. And so I'd bring people on here or there. And then I finally, about 3 years ago, decided to start building this. And so you can help a lot of people out that are looking for a change just by letting them know what you do. And you, like, just the things that you've talked about today are just so good as far as getting started. What you did when you were studying for your license, what you did about calling from the home, how you're making adjustments. You sound like somebody who's been in this business for quite a while, and it's still only 7 months. You're still new. You're not even getting your trails yet. You're not even at the 9-10 month period. So that's still to come too. Your first year is by far the toughest year because you're still learning, you're still growing. You're not getting that second 25% deposits yet. And once you start getting those, then that almost takes care of your lead bills too. And then things start getting a little bit easier because then you're getting the trails and you're getting renewals, you have increased sales. And then you can, obviously start getting the producer and the vice president bonuses if you decide to build a team. So being 7 months into this in a completely new industry, is this everything? Like when you saw that Instagram posts and the conference that Jessica went to and talking to Clint, is this everything that you thought it would be, or is it different in any way?
I guess it is and it isn't. I, of course, expected this to be hard work. If you're going to make some, like the money that we make here and changing your life, of course, it's not going to come just freely to you. So it's hard work. It's definitely grown me as a person. All in all, like I'm not the same person I was 7 months ago.
That's awesome.
It is everything I expected it to be. There's always different things that come at you that you didn't expect, of course. This is a business entrepreneur mindset. It's a transition from an employee mindset. So I think it is everything I expected it to be. There's always going to be some hard times. The chargebacks were something that kind of I had to level myself with and get used to. I got very emotional with it in the beginning. But other than that, yeah, this is awesome. I mean, this is something I can build a future on and not have to go to college for. So yes, it is.
So being a single mom, having a job just like this or careers like this, where you can dictate your own income and your own schedule, that's got to have made that part of life a lot easier. You get to spend more time with your kids or your kid, and make a lot more money, and then make decisions for your family based off of what's needed, not what you can afford. So where do you think that you'll be a year from now?
A year from now, I'm hoping to at least have a team at 250,000. That's my goal. Maybe more than that. Maybe I could do more. There's people who have exploded in just 6 months. So I think I could do better, but
Absolutely.
little goals.
What's your first, do you have any financial goals set in mind? Is there anything that you want to get for your family?
I just want to be able to take care of my family and eventually retire my parents.
Well, that's awesome.
They both don't have retirement plans, and I meet so many people that live on, everybody does, living on $800, $700 a month of Social Security, and I don't want my parents to live that way.
We see that's enough motivation. If we run enough appointments, we're seeing the other side of the people that weren't prepared. And so we have the ability, especially somebody such as young as yourself, you don't just have the ability to put yourself in a better position, but to put your parents in a better financial position. And I honestly think that you're doing all the right things to put yourself in such a great position here, that I'm excited to see where you are 3-4 months from now, because it's not too often that I actually talk to somebody that came brand new into the business and did all the things that you're doing right now. You came across some hiccups and you made some adjustments. You did all the right things in the beginning. You've got a great demeanor. You're likable. And with that, there's really no limit to what you can do here. And so I'm really excited to work with you. Hopefully some people got some things out of that. And I love talking to you. I'm here to help you out in any way whatsoever. I know Clint's phenomenal. Jessica's phenomenal. But if you need help from me, my staff, anybody else here, just let us know, because finding somebody like you is awesome to see. You're a bad employee and then you found something like this, but you're a great entrepreneur. You're a great self-employed person, and you're doing all the right things, and your family's got to be really proud of you.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
We're glad to have you. All right, everybody. Thanks, Mikayla, for getting on. Thanks, everybody else, for jumping on here as well, too. And let's make it a great week. We'll see you next week. Thanks.